At New Ideal, we're interested in our audience's feedback. So please send in comments, questions, and we're going to try to take them up both in written form and in video, as I'm doing here. And here's a question I got from John about my article, Finding Morality and Happiness Without God. So let me start off by reading the question. Dr. Ghate, you write in your article, Finding Morality and Happiness Without God, that, and now he's quoting from my article, a passage from my article, quote, a religion, no matter how much theologians may argue back and forth about points of dogma, remains just that, dogma. A religion advocates its basic tenets on faith, which means in the absence of evidence and logical argument, and even in the face of counter-evidence and counter-arguments. This is why a synonym for a religion is a faith. We speak, for instance, interchangeably of the Jewish religion and the Jewish faith. Close the quote from my article, and then John's question. Isn't this a caricature? Plenty of religious thinkers present rational arguments for their beliefs, such as proofs for the existence of God, proofs that the Bible is historically accurate, etc. While these arguments might not be very good, isn't it a caricature to say religious believers don't offer arguments? Now, I don't think I'm making a caricature, but we need to distinguish two things that I was trying to distinguish in my article. And so we're dealing with the basic relationship of reason and faith in a religion. And what I said in the article, and what I think I want to really emphasize here, is I said the basic tenets of a religion. So you have to distinguish the whole content of a religion from its fundamentals, from its starting points, from the primaries from which everything else flows. And those, I think, rest on faith. But wrapped in the whole religion can be arguments. And as I said in the article, theologians argue back and forth, across centuries, about different elements of their religion, different elements about religious belief. But the core, at the heart of the religion, remains faith and remains beliefs accepted on faith. And this is true even if you look at a thinker who you might say in his work as a theologian, it seems like reason dominates. So take the figure of Thomas Aquinas from the Christian religion or in the Christian tradition. He's celebrated for offering arguments for the existence of God. And he thinks of these arguments as you're proceeding from natural observation, you're proceeding logically, you're proceeding rationally, and you can demonstrate the existence of a God. But even someone like Aquinas makes a distinction between that, which is often labeled natural theology, because you're trying to proceed from natural observation, argumentation, in this case to alleged proofs for the existence of God. So there's natural theology on one side, but there's also, as it will often be labeled, dogmatic theology. And that's the higher form of theology. And notice the term dogmatic theology. You have that term because dogmatic theology proceeds from articles of faith, from beliefs accepted on faith, and then tries to spin out arguments from that. But its core and its starting point, the fundamental starting point, is an article of faith. So for instance, in the Christian religion, they'll talk, and Aquinas talk, of the mystery of the Trinity. And it's a mystery because it defies logical analysis. The Trinity is this idea that God is supposedly three beings or three figures, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and simultaneously just one. He's one God, he has one nature. So he's simultaneously three and one. You can't make sense of that logically, which is why it's called a mystery. And this crucial element in the Christian religion is taken on faith. And this is what I mean, that when you analyze a religion, yes, there's often a lot of argumentation involved, and when you're looking at different thinkers within the religion, they're arguing back and forth. And I don't want to deny that, but what I'm emphasizing is that at the heart of the religion are articles of faith. And this is true of all the religions. And it's part of what makes a religion a religion. Now, to further explore this relationship between reason and faith, I think another point of what John raised in his question is worth emphasizing as well. So to read again from part of what John wrote, he said, while these arguments might not be very good, isn't it a caricature to say religious believers don't offer arguments? Now, as I've said, they offer arguments in one sense, but at the core are elements of faith. But also relevant for thinking about the relationship of reason and faith is the fact that the arguments are not very good. So take again these arguments for the existence of God. I think it's been shown in philosophy for at least the last few centuries that these arguments don't work, that they're defective, that they're logically unsound. The arguments should not convince you. They're not convincing if you're just going by logic. Whether we're talking about the ontological argument for the existence of God or the argument from design, none of these arguments are convincing. None are logically sound. And yet, the fact that it's shown that these arguments are not convincing does not lead a lot of religious believers to abandon their religion. And I think if the explanation for why that does not happen, why you don't see in droves people abandoning their religion because these proofs or these alleged proofs for the existence of God are shown to be defective, they don't abandon their religion because they didn't accept their religion on the basis of arguments. They didn't go from, okay, here's some arguments for the existence of God. Yeah, I find the ontological argument convincing, or I find the argument from design convincing, and therefore I'm going to believe in God, and I'm going to adopt then a particular religion. I'm going to adopt Catholicism or some form of Protestantism, whether it be a Lutheran or a Calvinist or what have you. That's not how it works. It doesn't work. First I get arguments. Yes, you've convinced me that a God exists. Then I adopt a particular religion. So if that were how it worked, then the fact that, well, these arguments for the existence of God, they're not convincing, that should lead someone then to question their whole religion. But the typical case for someone embracing a religion is that he embraces it for non-rational reasons. He embraces it on faith, which I think ultimately means that he embraces it for emotional reasons. So for most people, their religion is the religion of their parents. They're raised in a certain family or a certain wider social circle, a certain culture where religion predominates, whether it's Catholicism or Lutheranism, and that's the religion, therefore, they adopt. Or someone marries into a Catholic family and adopts the Catholic religion. Again, a non-rational, an emotional reason for adopting a religion. And I think that is how most people have the religion that they do have. It's accepted on faith. And therefore, the fact that there's arguments to show, or counter-arguments that show, look, these supposed arguments for the existence of God, they're ineffective, they're unconvincing. It doesn't cause people to abandon their religion. Now to that you can add one caveat. There is an indirect sense, I think, in which when it's shown that the arguments for the existence of God are defective, that they're unconvincing, logically they should not persuade you. When that's demonstrated in philosophy, it does have an effect on religious believers, but I think in this kind of way. What it showcases for someone who believes in religion is the very fact that he didn't accept the religion based on arguments. So it wasn't someone gave him an argument for the existence of God, he thought carefully about the argument, came to think, yeah, this argument is convincing, therefore I'll believe in God, therefore I'll adopt a particular religion. That's not how he came to the religion. And the fact that someone can tear down the argument and it doesn't affect religious believers, they just continue to believe, that can get someone to question his own relationship to religion, to fully realize, look, I don't accept Catholicism because Aquinas offered arguments for the existence of God. I accept Catholicism for non-rational reasons. I accept it because I was raised in a family that was Catholic, or I went to a Catholic school and this was what was being preached in school, so I've adopted this religion. So I've adopted it for non-rational, for emotional, for faith-based reasons. And is that a good way of proceeding in life? Should I adopt conclusions and beliefs and ideas for non-rational, for emotional reasons? Should I accept things on faith, as I've done with my Catholic religion? And if a person comes to start to question that no, this is not a good way of proceeding, I should not proceed emotionally, I should not proceed on faith, he can then start to question his whole religion and the fact that he's adopted and accepted Catholicism. And he can start to question it and become an agnostic or eventually an atheist. But this is an indirect way in which the fact that these arguments are not very good, the arguments say for the existence of God, that they're not very good, it's an indirect way of leading a person to question his religion, because he comes to realize, I've accepted my religion for non-rational, faith-based grounds. Is that a good way to proceed in life?